upgrade right now. All right. Looks like we're recording. Hold on. All right. We are recording. This is the expansion meeting for. Hey, let's see. Joyce, would you put yourself on mute there?
Yes, sir.
Thank you so much. Thank you for doing that. Um, let me just start this over again. Here, let me just give myself a little thing here. All right. So this is June 22nd. This is the Gagnon Group Expansion Meeting. I'm Dave Gagnon, and today's session is to help anyone who wants to show up do better at the growth of their revenue share team, building the company within the company, and all of that good stuff. So I'm going to count on you guys to help drive the content. What would you like help with today? Scripts, dialogue, mindset, targeting, different models, anything like that is open for today's session. Hey, Matt.
Hey, Dave. Well, just to continue our conversation from yesterday a little bit, I mean, definitely targeting and, initial engagement, that kind of stuff.
Sure. Yeah, so when we were talking yesterday, Matt, I was going over my philosophy on contacting people, right? So it's not about having a list and just pounding through a list. That can be a little bit spammy. So I would rather take the time, do some research, and to know why I would be interested in reaching out to somebody. And so the concept that I've always taught and have always followed is the concept of what I call CATS, C-A-T-S. And the first, and I have the whole CATS video on my private YouTube channel. I encourage you guys to go and watch that one. Just type in CATS and it'll come up. The first part of that is the compliment. And so if I don't know why I would want to be in business with someone, I really shouldn't be calling them, because it's not a body shop. It's not just any person to try to get them in, because quite frankly, you bring in 10 people who are not real estate professionals or are not going to be engaged in good culture fits. All that means is we're taking those resources for onboarding them and then exiting them, moving licenses, all of those kind of things, getting their tools up and operational. And so I would rather have a little bit slower attraction process and get better caliber people, because the resources of the company are very valuable. And so, if I were going to target a group, I would want to do some research. And so there's a lot of things that I find value in. Agents typically want to be found. And so if they've been trained at all, they're going to have a LinkedIn account, they're going to have a Facebook account, they're going to have at least a bio somewhere, and present themselves, right? So if I type in your name, Matt, I should be able to find something about you and what you've been doing. And so if I'm searching for people to be on our real estate team, I might be looking for a different set of criteria than looking for a leader to help us build. That's part of my process, and I'm happy to dig into that if you have questions. Matt, I see your hand up. Matt, do you have a question?
No, sorry, I didn't put my hand down.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, so when you put your hand up, if you leave it up, it gives me an exclamation point, starts yelling at me, and that kind of stuff. So, and so if I look someone up and they've done nothing to promote themselves, there's no photo of them, they don't give a little, a bio, why people should engage with them as a real estate professional, I don't waste my time. It's just not worth it. for me. There's only so many hours in the day that I can spend on building our group. And yesterday I got to speak to someone who's running a team of 200 people, right? And so would I rather use that hour to have that conversation or to talk with someone who can't even figure out how to get a photo online, right? So for me, it's self-filtering. And so just having access to an MLS or a list isn't the end all be all. I would rather take the time, do the due diligence, and answer the question, why would I want to spend an hour with this person? Once I know that, then I can make first contact. And so the first contact starts with that why, right? And so, if I'm contacting someone because they're having a great start to their career, or because they specialize in new buyers, or they specialize in working with veterans, or they specialize in green housing, or whatever it is, right? They have a specialty. They've gotten some designations. They're on their board of realtors, serving on one committee or another. They're a former broker owner. They're an independent broker owner. They're a former office manager. They run a team. They do enough production that they could be an icon agent. They do enough production that they would be a capper. I mean, there's so many reasons why I would want to reach out to someone. They were a manager at their previous job. They were a coach of a youth athletics team. They, were a den leader for Cub Scouts, or something that they're showing that they're above and beyond the average drone, right? There's a lot of average, there's a lot of mediocrity, there's a lot of negative people. I choose not to spend any time with them. And so I look for the clues that are going to point me towards people that I would truly want to be in business with. And so that's how I start the conversation. That's how we do our due diligence as to who we want to talk to. And then as I'm dialing that call, I have all of my notes in front of me. I know why I want to talk with them. I start with the compliment, spend some time on that, maybe ask them a couple questions about it. I give them the attraction statement, right? The attraction statement is, why would they want to give me some time? And so that attraction statement varies, whether it's someone who's less than a capper, who's been growing their business, versus someone who is a capper, versus someone who's an icon, versus someone who's running a team, right? So that attraction statement ties into what I see in them. And then the takeaway, I let them know that they may not be interested. And then the schedule portion of it is, now I'm tying them down to why they want to give me some time to know the facts about what the opportunity is before they say no to it. Right? So that's my entire process, Matt. Did that answer your question?
Yes, thanks. I've been writing notes, even though we talked that through some yesterday, but I really want to adopt that philosophy. Very cool, Dave.
Yeah, absolutely. And watch the cats video that I have on the YouTube channel. I also have one up there called NEEDS, which stands for Now, Enjoy, Alter, Decision, and Schedule. And so I talk through that process, and I follow that in my dialogues when I'm talking with people. And that helps me understand where they are, why they're there, what they like about it, what they would change. And I have like a half-hour video on that too. So I think the combination of those two things is a great place for anyone to start. And when you're attracting people into your own group, if you think it's good stuff, share it with them, because it really shortens the time it takes to get to a good place mentally before you start making the calls. I'm going to open it up for any other questions too. And I know a lot of folks come in and they don't ask the questions. Sometimes you're shy, or don't know how to ask the question or whatever, feel free to open up, because this really could be, one-on-one coaching. And, if I were doing this as paid one-on-one coaching, it would be in the $1,500 a month range. And so you guys get this for free. Just ask the questions that I can help you with.
Hey, Dave, I have a question.
Hey, John.
Since no one's going to ask. So as you bring folks on, so if we're already in that process and you've got some folks that are good now and you're building a little bit of a group, and what responsibility do you have, I mean, for each person that brings into your downline and helping them figure out as they're starting to sponsor people? And, it can be challenging right now that, getting them to figure out, okay, you've got to go to the tech right now because people get lost in the system. And just how do you coach people through that? Because sometimes it's like, I want to help everybody. At the same time, I don't want to enable them. And at the same time, I got stuff to do. So I want to be a great leader. At the same time, I've got a business to run and I got to do things.
Sure. Yeah, so I'm just going to give you my answer from how I've always run my business, and that may or may not be the way you want to run your business. But I look at people three ways. I've attracted an awful lot of people who are here for the first three pillars, or one of the first three pillars, right? Being the tech, the financial model, and the equity, and they're not here to grow their revenue share. So that would be category number one. Category number two, rev share is a reason that they're here. They just don't have local credibility. They haven't developed the skill sets yet, and those kind of things. And so they're not probably going to grow very much without my direct involvement. And then category three would be people that are as good or better than me. And it's a very low bar. I've brought in a lot of people that are much better than me, and I'm very blessed for that. But I'm going to start with category three, right? So if I bring in someone like and I'm not going to start rattling off names because then I'll offend someone else because I didn't say their name. But if I bring in someone like myself, I don't need a lot of anything as far as how to be motivated, how to be focused, anything like that. What I need is, what are the right answers to the major questions that I get, right? And then how do I bring someone on board? And so when I came over, the person who brought me into the company was Jason Guessing. And for me, it was very important to have him available for me for my first 8 or 10 calls, not because I was scared or anything else. I just did not know enough stuff to answer all of the questions that possibly could have come up, and I didn't want to miss anybody, right? So he did the first few with me, and I've been on my own since. So that's like a category three person. But I think as the sponsor, or the first upline, the first capable upline, let's say, because it may not be someone that you brought in directly, but they might be 3 or 4 levels under you, maybe 5 levels under you. But if they're a rock star, they're going to impact your life, whether they're at level 1 or level 6, right? And so I always try to treat everyone like they're level 1. And I'm tough on my level 1s, right? These are the things that you need to do to get my support. But I'll do that for anyone in the group if they don't have a good attractologist between me and them. If they do, I'm going to point them to them, right? So John, you're doing a good job. If it was someone under you, I'd point them to you first. And I know you got a great group going there. And if you needed more help, I'd push them to Jeff and Lexi. And if Jeff and Lexi needed help, then I would jump in and help. And so that's how I can have enough time to help everybody, right? But even with someone who is your spark plug, they need to know how to answer all the questions. They need to know how to physically get someone onboarded. And so that's your responsibility, not just as the sponsor, but as the first designated upline with the knowledge, right? And so the other two categories, I'll take category 2 first. And if I were doing this as a class, I think I would reverse the category numbers, right? But category 2 would be someone who wants to build their group that doesn't, they haven't mastered the skill set yet of how to have meaningful dialogue, right? They're still a little clunky, they're mechanical. Maybe people know them locally and they don't have credibility because they don't do very much business, or something, right? There's something there. With those folks, I want them to be able to feed leads to their first significant upline attractologist, right? A lot of us, think, well, how can I grow my organization faster, quicker, and we want to call people we don't know. Well, we may have to develop those relationships to add to our directs, but we can grow our organization, all the way down. And so if I have someone who can set the table with quality people, I help them bring them in, right? That helps grow my organization. And if I bring in someone under someone, I bring them in at level 2 or 3, and they're a capper, I know that's worth, 2,000-3,000 for me. It's worth 2,000-3,000 for the person I'm supporting. On average, it works out to be about $1,000 a head, regardless where they are in the organization. And so I do that. I have requirements, right? And so one requirement is they have to watch my most recent video. Why? Because I know what I said on the video, and that way there I know what I need to cover and what I don't need to cover. If they watch someone else's video, I don't know what they heard. I don't know what was said. I don't know how to push them back to that video. So it needs to be my video. And if someone books someone on my calendar and they tell me that person's watched my video, and we start the call and I say, hey, so you watched my video? No, I haven't watched yours, but I watched, another one. It's like, okay, how about if you use this time to watch my video and let's get the call rebooked, right? Because I'm just starting from a place where it's not the best use of everyone's time. And so watch my video, number 1. Number 2, they need to be someone of significance. What does that mean? As humans, we're all significant, right? But as people that I only have a finite time, and so I only choose to spend time with people of significance where they could have an impact in your business or my business. And that could be because they're a capper, because they're an icon, because they're a broker owner, because they're a team leader, those kind of things. Those are people of significance, and they need to watch my video, and then we can talk with them. And the third thing is the person that I'm having the call for needs to be on the call with. That way they're getting trained, right? And so, after going through my process, 1, 2, 3 times, if someone takes good notes, usually they can replicate the answers pretty well. So you don't want 1,200 people all stuck because one person's not available, or one person took a vacation, or something like that. So so if you're building your team, I would suggest doing it the same way. I give my folks access to my calendar. Don't abuse it. I need to spend more time on my front line, right? Both attracting them and developing them. But if I have open slots, right, I'll help someone. And you should do the same thing. And then you have, the first category I talked about, which is someone who's really not here for the revenue share. They don't see the value of it, or they poo-poo it. They still have good quality people that they can tap you into. And so I would still touch base with them. How'd your month go? How many closings did you do? Who's the best person you had a closing with this month? Would you mind if I called them and told them something, good about them? What would be the number 1 compliment you would say about Fred? you know, and then if I call Fred and Fred joins, I'm putting him under that person. Now, I have the least amount of time to do that for people, but, you know, early, when I was, you know, had a smaller group, I did that stuff. And so once we have someone who is designating that they want to join, that's when, you know, you really need to go to work. And I think that's when most people back off. And so, especially now, we're kind of in this transition with the onboarding software. And so things are a little clunky right now. I think they'll be better, but it might not be better until next month. It might not be better until next year. I don't know, and that's not in my control. But what I do know is it's a little clunky. And so I have an awesome team leader who has a fantastic group of agents, and they're coming over on July 2nd. We've had a 30-day transfer plan in place. So we got them in touch with a state broker. We got their ICAs done. They're ordering their business cards. They've ordered their signs. And on July 2nd, they're going to be ready to flip everything over, right? I talk to her every week in that process. And as we get closer next week, it'll be every day, right? And if anything gets stuck, I'm handling the problem. It's my business, right? I got an email from someone or a text or something from someone yesterday or the day before, very frustrated that, you know, someone was getting the runaround, right? So, and what the person told me was, well, I sent them to agent services and, you know, they didn't get the right answer and I'm frustrated and they're frustrated and, you know, blah, blah, blah. And my response was, you don't send them into agent services, you go into agent services, right? This is your company within the company, and agent services are bringing people into your company within the company. If there's a failure in there, you should be massaging it, right? You don't go in and you don't act like a bull in a china shop and, you know, tell people what they need to do. You go in and you ask how you can help in the process. You know, where's it stuck? What can I do? Right? Right now, there's a lot of stickiness in between turning on systems and moving people along in the process and state brokers. And it's not any individual's fault. The technology they're working on automating technology, but it's still physical touches. And so if a lot of people come in one day and everything is in sequential order, there's a delay, right? And so you have to just help manage those expectations and be on it. But if you send someone in, they get an answer that they don't understand, and they get it from someone who's getting the same question all day long because we just had a big influx of people, everyone's frustrated. If you're the one that comes in and you find out that, oh boy, we just had a company with 200 agents come on board, everyone's working on them, my person isn't even going to get touched until Friday, well, then you can call and you can set the expectation with your people so you can eliminate inadvertent frustration. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I don't know if we ever know, Dave, but if they brought 200, you know, two people in, because we really don't end up talking to our regional person directly very often. But I get it. And that's what I've been doing, just trying to, I feel so responsible for the whole company sometimes that it's outside of me. So let's check.
Well, yeah, and let's keep it in perspective, right? If it was easy, and let's define easy, right? In a perfect world, I think most people would think that I send you the video, you watch it, you think it's the best thing ever, and you just want to know where to sign up. I send you the link, you sign up, you name me the sponsor, the company reaches out to you, sends you the independent contractors agreement. The state broker reaches out, gives you a warm welcome. The email comes out from the company, lets you know when orientation is. You have that available on your calendar. You come in. It all makes perfect sense to you. You have no issue with the technology. Your headsets work. You figure out how to do your little backflip. You're doing a little dance, and you bring in 3 of your friends. Right? If that's how it worked, everyone would be pretty excited.
Yeah.
Yeah. The reality of it is, if that's how it worked, they wouldn't need you. Right? The reason why we get paid so much money to help build the company is it's hard. And you need to embrace that. Right? If you think about, so I brought in Chuck Keller, right, two and a half years ago or so. And Chuck, I think, has about 400, 500 people now, which means that group is worth 400 to 500,000 a year to me. Do you think it was worth me doing whatever it took to get him and his group over and to make sure he got trained and comfortable and got to meet all the right people and all of that stuff? Do you think that's worth it?
Oh yeah, that's the way I felt about all of it. You know.
Yeah, right. And so, but the newest person coming over today, you have to treat them like that, right? Because if they are a leader, if they are someone who is building their own brand, building their company, eventually building a company within the company, they all have that potential, right? If someone brought me on board, we have about 1,200 people. We're just shy of that now. 1,200 people. That means I'm worth $1.2 million to someone in my upline, right? How would you handle getting me on board? How would you support me? And so the husband and wife team and their little group I have coming over on July 2nd, I don't know if they're going to love revenue share or engage in it or be great at it or anything like that. But I know if they are, they have great potential for them and for my family. And so why wouldn't I act like it's my company and my onboarding team and make sure that they're getting the service that they need, or setting the expectation, right? So we're expecting a heat wave that's going to kick in here Friday. It's going to be, 90 and humid for like a week. It's going to hit 101 on Saturday or Sunday. I went on Best Buy, going to order some new air conditioning units. They won't be here until Monday. I can't get mad at Best Buy. I could have placed the order last week, right? But they set the expectation that it's going to be here on Monday, right? I can decide whether that makes sense or not, but it's our job to set that expectation here. And so if I'm bringing someone on board, I'm letting them know that it could be a couple days, but it's probably going to be a couple weeks. And if you're not tied in with your state SAB, at a very close level, you don't know, how long it's going to take, because it does vary state by state. Make sense?
Yeah.
And so I would say treat it like you are the CEO of your business and EXP is your partner vendor, right? And they have their job to do and you have your job to do, but you need to take full responsibility of the process, and we don't blame the company. Trust me, every staff member, every employee, every leader wants it all to be 100% smooth and an amazing experience, because that gives us momentum and allows us to grow faster. And when it doesn't, everyone is frustrated and working to make it better. All we can do is acknowledge where it is and manage expectations and help where we can. Make
Got it.
sense?
Yeah.
So, I always liken it to, lead generation for real estate sales, right? If I'm doing a great job, and I'm doing, 2 listing presentations a day, at some point in time, I'm going to have a cluster of them come on the market. And if I'm the one that's doing all of that work, right, the photos and the marketing and getting signs up and all that kind of stuff, it's hard to keep doing what I was doing to generate business when I'm doing all the stuff it takes to do the business. And it's the same thing with onboarding, right? It's like I'm talking to people, talking to people, talking to people. Ooh, I got 4 or 5 coming in. It's like, holy cow, now my full-time job is onboarding, it seems, right? Just trying to manage expectations and keep everybody happy and get them in and get their stuff working. And but oh my God, right? Well, it's the same thing. I think in a perfect world, everyone's making enough money with revenue share that you can have an assistant that you can train to make sure that everyone is getting a cloud tour. We're checking technology and we're talking to the state broker and everything is smooth. And if a hiccup comes up, then that can get put on my plate and I deal with that, right? So it's what degree are you running your business? And so some people are in real estate and they do everything on the real estate transaction from generating the lead and attending the closing and delivering the closing gift. Other people, they have people that are helping with lead gen and lead conversion. Some people have people doing their appointments. Some people have someone doing all of the support of the sale. Some people have other people attending closings, right? And so you got a leader of a business who's not getting into all the minutia. And I think you make those decisions how you run your real estate business and how you run your attraction business, right? The first thing that I did once I had money coming in on the attraction side was I got part-time help. And as I made more money, I moved her into full-time. And having that support allows me to be able to spend more meaningful time with more meaningful people, like being able to do this session.
What does that look like on a part-time basis? What did she actually do? What did that look like?
Well, she did the things to help free me up, right? So it's the redundant things. So, for example, I typically would spend an hour with someone getting them into the cloud and giving them a tour, where to get their questions answered, make sure their sound works, how to bounce around, how to talk with people, how to have private conversations with people, all of that kind of stuff, right? That's about an hour. And so, I don't do those anymore. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yeah.
Right? If I was supposed to have an appointment with Fred yesterday and Fred missed his appointment, I can call Fred and 4 or 5 times and have Fred ignore my calls and get frustrated and I don't get him back on my schedule. Or I could say, hey, Fred missed his appointment yesterday. I'm really looking forward to chatting with him. Can you stay in touch with him, get him back on my calendar? Right? And it might take, a couple weeks, it might take a couple of months, and then Fred's back on my calendar. And so, when I did real estate, I did everything soup to nuts. When I started coaching on how to do real estate, one of the things that I learned was do the analysis of time. And so I don't know how it works in your part of the country, but what I found was it took about 10 hours of work to work with a seller, right? From presentation, getting the house on the market, negotiating it, keeping the seller up to date with reports and conversation, and the closing. And so around here, the average commission is about $6,000. 10 hours means it's $600 an hour. With the average buyer, looking at multiple properties, putting in multiple offers that don't get accepted because of competition, all of those kind of things, it was 40 hours. So same thing, 40 hours, $6,000, that's $150 an hour, I think, $125 an hour. And so where do I want to spend more time? right? So for me back then, I just became a listing agent. If I got a buyer, I referred it to someone else for 25%, and I made more money on the referral side than I was making hourly running around with people, right? The next thing that I learned was in that entire process of doing the listings, there were things that were, $10 an hour work, like putting a sign up or taking a sign down, right? Going and pulling a mortgage and title and that kind of information. And so I could make a list of all the things that I needed to have done. I could pay someone else $10 an hour who was a real estate professional who wasn't making enough money doing sales, and so they were willing to work for $10 an hour for extra income, and I could move all of that off my plate. And so it's the same thing with onboarding. What are you doing in your onboarding process, which is sucking up time that is better spent somewhere else, and how can you source that? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
So very rarely do I do cloud tours anymore. I mean, if I'm talking to someone and they're at their computer and I got nothing booked for the next hour, it easily could turn into, hey, let's get you logged in kind of thing. But for the most part, I feed all of that to my assistant, and she's very well trained. Some of you got your tour from her, all that kind of stuff. And she does it the way I trained her to do it, right? So it's a way that I can source some of the things that don't need my abilities, right? Because someone else can get that done.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Howard's asking, how did I find the admin? I was very fortunate with her in that she was roommate with one of my sons. And so I got to meet her around holiday parties, socials at my house, and those kind of things. And I like her, right? She's got a very nice way about her. And I only had a little bit of money. I only had a small budget, and so it was easy to say, I got a little bit of money. Would you like to pick up a few hours a week to help me out with some things? And so that's how I got to test drive her, and now I pay her very well. And now she's a full-time employee. She has health benefits. She has a 401k. She gets a healthy raise every year. She has bonus opportunity and all of that kind of stuff, right? So now it's easy to plug and play, right? I know what I'm looking for. I know what I'm not looking for, and those things. Howard wants to work for me.
And Dave, she's just adorable too.
Oh, thank
she
you.
seems to love you.
Yeah, thank you. She's like a daughter to me, right? And I've treated her very well for the time that she's been with me. And last week, I mean, some of you know that I went up to Lake Winnipesaukee for 10 days and blessed enough to be able to do a house that was large enough to have my three sons and the people that are important to them come up, and friends and all of that. But I was able to, bring my admins up and do it as a paid day, right? So for me, right, if I have to look at the ledger for accounting, it was team building, right? And if I look at it on the humanity side, I love these people, right? And I want them to have a good life too, because by them doing a good job, they help me have a good life. And so, hopefully that breeds, a loyalty and trust and those kind of things. And so I think all of that's important.
Dave, can you talk, second, third, and fourth call and closing?
Sure. I start closing on the first call, right? Trial closes. And so, ABC always be closing, right? So, um, my favorite dialogue is what I call my on a scale, and the way it goes is like this. And who is that? Was that Randy that just asked that question?
Yes.
Randy, would you just role play it with me just so it can flow a little bit? And I don't care what your answer is, and then I'll ask someone else to give a different answer. But let's just role play it with a couple of different answers just so people can kind of get the flavor. And so now we've gotten to the point that you've watched the entire video. I've answered all of your questions. And now we're in the closing sequence. So I'm going to say, Randy, on a scale of 1 to 10, with a 1 meaning you have no interest at all and I should never call you again, and 10 meaning you're ready to put your application in and excited to work with me to help grow your business, where would you put yourself on that scale?
I guess about an 8.
8, that's a great answer, Randy. Tell me, what would it take to move it closer to a 10?
I guess I'd want to know a little bit more about the business building component of the company.
Okay, perfect. And so I'm not going to get into that answer there, but that's the process, right? And so I'm finding out right then and there if they're ready to put their application in. And if not, if anyone gives me a 5 or higher, by going through the process, what would move them closer to a 10, they're giving acknowledgement as to what the next step is. And so if I have the time to handle that now, I will. If not, I'm going to use what Randy just said to set my next appointment. Right? And so I'm going to drill down, I'm going to ask a few questions about that, and then I'm either going to handle it or I'm going to set the next meeting. And for me, I would rather be face-to-face. If I'm talking to someone in the area here, if it's within an hour, I want a face-to-face, and I want them to meet me halfway. Right? If it's further than an hour, I'm asking them to come closer, right? But I want a face-to-face. If it's beyond that, I'm just doing it, here in the cloud office, on the phone, anything like that. I think it's harder to do remotely than it is locally. I just did one the other day where the person who had asked me to help them with the candidate was on the phone, even though they were in the same town. And what I would coach is be together, right? Because for most people, their number one holdback is trying to figure out the sense of community, right? And if we just push everything to the cloud and they're not getting in, they don't get to experience that. And if you're doing it local and you have someone local, invite them on the boat, invite them to dinner. If your SAB is doing local events, great. If not, you do local events. You be the leader, right? Even if the local event is just a couple of people. I brought in Heidi as a frontline a month or so ago, and I think she's absolutely fantastic. I got a boat. I got room on the boat. Why wouldn't I invite her and her significant other to come and enjoy the day with me? Right? These are people that I'm building my business with, and I want to have that trust. I want her and her significant other to know that I'm committed to their success too. But that's my closing sequence, Randy. Does someone else want to give me another response?
I have to ask my wife.
Okay, fantastic. So other than your wife doing some due diligence, is there anything else stopping us from moving forward?
Nope.
Okay, well, fantastic. And so that's just a little technique for isolating the objective, right? The objection, making sure that it's not one thing and another thing and another thing. And then again, if it's local, I would love to go out to dinner with you and your wife, right? Let's talk about the opportunity. Let's talk about doing this together. If they're not local, then I'm going to ask for the wife to follow the same process. Is it possible you could have your spouse watch the video over the weekend? And if the answer is yes, let's book time for the three of us to talk on Monday, right? Then I can help that person overcome the objectives or objections. Joyce, you have your hand up?
Yes, I do. Hi.
Hi, Joyce.
Can you hear me?
I can.
Awesome. Okay, so what comes to my mind is I've heard before, the answer will be whatever. They'll say something like, well, there's all these companies that are coming up that offer this and offer that. There's Exit Realty. There's, all these different ones. So what's the big, how do I know this company will be here tomorrow?
Okay. And so is that the only thing holding you back, whether you feel secure in the company being here tomorrow?
Well, yeah, I'm just wondering because every day it seems like there's another company like this popping up.
Mm-hmm. Okay. But just to be clear, that's the only thing holding you back?
Yeah, I guess so. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, great. And so I would just work on that piece of it, right? But it's the same thing, right? On a scale of 1 to 10. And so what I'm trying to isolate is, are you ready to move forward? And if not, what's the one thing or two things that we need to help you understand so you can move forward? So, those are the kind of things that we can do here in this session. Do you want me to handle that objection here now, or were you just throwing that out as a sample?
I'll tell you why. Because the thing is that, how many companies can, you have to know what your competition's doing. However, if someone said that to me, they're going to want me to, let's say, portray how great this company is. Well, what about that one? What about this one? So I would like to know, how you would answer me if that was my objection.
Sure. Yeah. And that's really, what we can use this platform for, right? To say, hey, I've talked to 3 people who have given me this objection, and quite frankly, I don't know what to say. I can help you with those things. And so if I were talking to someone like that, I'd ask them, and so role play this with me, with whatever mindset of a person that you're talking to. All I ask is that the person that you portray be someone of significance and intelligence. Okay, so you can't just keep throwing out dumb stuff, right? Because I would just disengage from that person. But if they have intelligence, but they have a legitimate concern, then I would engage. And so I would say, Joyce, how long have you been in the business?
I've been in the business
15 years?
Yeah.
Okay, great. And in that 15 years, how many new companies have you seen pop up?
Well, let me see. There's been, there's Keller Williams, there's Exit Realty.
Just ballpark, Joyce.
Just what?
Just give me a ballpark. About how?
Ballpark. Okay, I would say 7, maybe.
Yeah, about 7. And so, and how many of their models have you dug into to the degree that we've dug into this one?
I dug into Exit and I dug into Keller Williams.
Okay, both fine companies, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Now I'm hearing about all these other ones, the Redfins and all these other ones.
Sure. And you could dig into any of those and decide to go anywhere. You're an independent contractor, right?
Correct, yes.
Okay. And so as an independent contractor, doesn't it make sense to choose the one that is going to best suit your needs as a real estate professional?
Well, of course, yes.
Okay. And so like we talked about with the 80-20 split and the $16,000 cap, that's better than any other model that you've seen, right?
Yes, that is. Yes.
Okay. And then we talked about KV Core and having a tool like that, and the fact that you couldn't afford the extra $500 a month, but if it's free, you would use it. That's pretty powerful, right?
Yes, it is. You're getting a lot of yeses from me. Yes.
Sure. And those other companies aren't doing that.
Well, not exactly, but they keep talking about coming up with stuff.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
for now, no.
Yeah, but they're not doing that now, right?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
They're not doing that now, correct?
No, that's correct.
Okay. And then none of them are giving you stock in their company, just for
Well, yes, right.
right?
Right. This is different. This I can say is probably one of the biggest significant differences.
Okay. So and none of them give you the opportunity to work with me to help build your revenue share,
That's right.
right? And the revenue share is off the top, off the gross, not,
Right.
And so, based on what you just told me, even though there's a lot of companies that have come into the business, no one's doing this.
You just broke up. I didn't hear the end.
Yep,
Based on, go ahead.
yep. And so, like you've told me, there's been a lot of companies that have come into the industry over
Right.
the recent years, but no one is doing this except us.
Okay. My only issue with that is everybody, like even with Keller Williams, they say nobody's doing it like they are, too. But I see what you're saying. Yes, they're not a publicly traded company, for sure.
Well,
And
they're not.
yeah.
They're not publicly traded. They don't share any of their equity. And yeah, no one does it like them. But we've compared what they're doing and what we're doing, and this is better, right?
It seems so, yes.
Okay, so just because there's a lot of other companies with slightly different models, that doesn't change the fact of these offerings.
No, that's correct. That's
Okay.
correct.
And
I just want to know that this is not a fly-by-night kind of situation. That's probably my biggest concern.
sure. And so, what kind of validation would you like to see that it's not fly by night? For example, if it was a company that was publicly traded and
Right.
and submitted its financials every quarter and filed them with the SEC, would you think that that would help validate that it's being
Yeah.
operated properly?
For sure.
If it was a kind of company that wasn't only publicly traded but got accepted to be traded on the NASDAQ, do you think that would help validate that it's not fly by night?
Yeah, I think so. Right. You're
Okay.
right.
If the leader of that company was consistently in the top few hundred industry leaders in our own publications, is that something that would make you feel more comfortable?
It is.
Sure.
You
Well,
got a good arsenal.
I know. So let's get your paperwork in so we can start working together. And quite frankly, if something fantastic comes out 5 years from now and it's, oh my goodness, you have to go do that, you're still an independent contractor. You can still do what you choose to do, right?
Right.
So
Exactly.
since this is the best option that you've ever seen,
The only thing that intimidates me, and so far you got me on board. All the years I've been doing real estate, and I've been to some of the bigger companies, the brick and mortar. I'm a little bit intimidated by, as good as I am on the computer, I'm a little bit intimidated by this whole tech thing.
sure.
I'm not a millennial.
Yeah. Neither am I.
Uh-huh.
And so, what part of the way you do business today do you think would have to change?
Well, I certainly would have to, familiarize myself with all of the things, like in your world per se. But you know what? I guess I may contradict myself because we're all going in that direction. We're, all of us,
Mm-hmm.
we're going paperless and all this and that. But I just don't want to get. It's a little isolating. It's a little scary for me to make the jump between having like an office backup where we had an admin who did everything for us, and then here I am sort of on my own, but not exactly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so the question really comes down for me, Joyce. Are you the type of person who's a leader, or more of a follower, right? And so even though some things have been done for you in the past, are the benefits here significantly better enough that you want to be that leader and move your life forward with all the benefits and opportunities that are here.
Hands down. I'm in.
All right.
Thank you. Thanks very much. I like it.
Absolutely. Thank you for role playing with me, Joyce.
That was very helpful, actually.
All right. Well, fantastic. I'm going to wrap it up there since we're coming up on the top of the hour. And I did get a good recording of this, so I'm going to be processing that up to the YouTube channel. If someone in here could please post a link to my YouTube channel, that would be great, just to help the folks that haven't been there. And then save that. Subscribe to it. Then when I post the new stuff, you'll get notified. But it does takes a few hours for the video to compile and compress and upload and all of that stuff. So you should see it uploaded by the end of the day today. I appreciate everyone coming in. If there's other stuff that you want to have me cover, send it to me or post it in our private Facebook group. And as you're growing and adding people to your groups, make sure you're adding them into the private Facebook group so they're getting notifications and all those good things. And there will not be a Wednesday training event. Thank you, Nathan. There will not be a Wednesday training event next Wednesday because it's the 4th of July. Everyone have a safe holiday, but we will be back at it 2 weeks from today. All right, guys, have an amazing holiday. Bye-bye.
Not doing a live Gagnon growth at the lake